the last time you were in Baltimore, let's say 2013, it was like 2013, 2014, I saw you at like a preview night, and I had a book of Usagi stuff that I had been, and we were at the Hyatt bar or something, and you were on your way to the bar, and I had it, and I was like, oh, you're there, so I was showing it to you. You graciously talking to me, were holding it like you were, like it was like you were a waiter and the thing, and you had your pen, and you were sketching Usagi in the mid, like halfway between the table and the bar. And I was like, oh, I could do this anywhere. And completely automatic, all the moves and stuff. It's like obviously you've done it before, but I was like, that has to be probably not something that you usually do like in mid-stride. You're just like, oh, I can do this.
I have been, is this on?
Yeah.
I have been working with Sergio Rodriguez. Well, I've known Sergio for about 50 years now. And he used to really make fun of me. Like, oh, you draw so fast, it's, like you have a broken arm, or you have the pencil? What kind of girl are you? It's like, and so because years of ridicule has taught me to draw faster and to draw anywhere.
When you say anywhere, I mean, really, it was basically just like, really flat. It was like, oh, I just do this thing, and it's just like, oh, God. Okay.
Anyway, we should get started.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Stan Sakai Spotlight panel here at this year's Baltimore Comic-Con. My name is Greg Matasevich. I host the Robots from Tomorrow podcast, and I'm thrilled to be able to talk with Stan about one of the most consistently excellent careers in comics. Over 40 years as the sole creator, cartoonist of Usagi Yojimbo, writing, drawing, lettering over 200 issues across multiple publishers, Stan has built the success of his Japanese samurai hair with the patience and methodology of the tortoise, one issue at a time, one page at a time, one line at a time. The creative race he continues to this day has brought him multiple Eisner Awards, an induction in their Hall of Fame, a legion of fans, and the respect of his peers. Now, as you said, Usagi wasn't the first thing that you've worked on. Can you remember when you realized that this rabbit and his story was going to be the main story of your career?
Yeah, well, I had wanted to do a story, adventure, about the adventures of Nelson Groundthumper, which was another rabbit character, but in medieval Europe instead of Japan. And the entire story would be about 2,500 pages, and it would tell why there are anthropomorphic animals, which is like human-like animals, why they are regular animals, and the rise of the humans. So it was going to be like my Lord of the Rings, like an epic. But and the first Nelson adventure was published in Albedo #1 by Steve Galacci, and Steve had made enough money to publish a second issue. So he said, "Oh, what else do you have?" And I thought, oh, maybe I'll continue the story of Nelson. And then I thought, oh, I had a secondary character in the Nelson Groundthumper storyline named Usagi, Miyamoto Usagi, Usagi Yojimbo. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll just do a fun story about him. And I did, and I fell in love with the character. So the entire Nelson storyline was pushed to the side, and I developed Usagi. So I've been working on Usagi for more than 40 years now.
The Nelson one-shot that came out some years ago, was that, I can't remember, was that going back to the character, or was that you just, reintroducing the Albedo story?
That was published by, I believe, Dark Horse, and it came out as a hardcover book. And it published all the Nelson Groundthumper stories, which was maybe 100 pages worth of stories, and had a new story in it as well. And every so often, back when I was with Fantagraphics, I would do a Nelson Groundthumper story, just thinking that, one day I'll pick it up again. But,
Someday the rabbit story is going to wrap up. I need a backup.
Actually, I will end Usagi in about 10 years. I'm gearing up towards the climax, and then I will finish it. It's in a way that has never been done before in comic books. and I'm looking forward to. Right now, I'm just starting to introduce major characters for the storyline, wrapping up loose ends, and then in about 10 years, it should be finished.
Okay.
And also, I've been going back to Japan about once a year, and I just mainly to do research. Like I'm going back again in next month, and I'm visiting a couple of tea farms, and I want to do a story about Chana, matcha, Japanese tea. Also, too, in the area I'm going to, Kyoto, outside of Kyoto is the old Yagyu village. And if you know anything about Japanese history, the Yagyu was a significant clan to the Shogunate times. So I'm going to visit the Yagyu area. Actually, will be my stepdaughter Emmy loves to hike. In fact, she's in Peru right now. She hiked the 2-day Inca Trail to Machu Picchu. She's in Machu Picchu right now. But she arranged it for us to hike through the mountains of Japan. And so we'll hike to the Yagyu village. When we were there last year, we took the old samurai trail from Nagoya. So she always plans for us to hike. Even though, I'm 72 years old and not prepared to hike in the rain, or, every so often we come to these signs that says, ring the bell to scare the bears away. So anyway, she plans these things for us, for our good.
Method research. Like, look, my characters are walking around, hiking up stuff in Japan.
So if I'm eaten by a bear, that's why the story won't be finished.
So that's interesting. One of the questions that I had on here was that one of the things about Usagi that's remarkable is how accessible it is while you still have, continuing stories and stuff. How do you plot Usagi? Like, how do you decide, like, this is going to keep going and I'm going to do, like, one-offs here? How do you Usagi?
Well, Usagi has a very simple story about it. All you need to know is Usagi is a samurai rabbit living in feudal Japan. And I try to make it as accessible to the new readers as possible. I do a lot of one-shots, and that's a good place for new readers to get on board. However, the older readers like the extended stories because there's more character development. There's a lot more research involved, and I personally like the longer stories because I don't have to think of new stories. But, it's very deliberate.
So you talked about working with Sergio earlier.
Mm-hmm.
In working on, so you talked about him saying he needs to draw faster or all those things. In terms of looking at him as like as a peer, as a mentor, what did you take away from him as a professional?
As a professional, what I took away from him is his commitment to drawing and also to the way he works, because I've been working with Sergio, I've known Sergio for about 50 years now. The way we met is that I moved up to California from Hawaii, and I found his name in the telephone book. And I wrote him a letter, he called me up and said, oh, let's get together, and 50 years later, we're best friends. And I still see him every Friday on Zoom. He doesn't travel much anymore. He's 86, I think. He just turned 86 last month. And so he doesn't travel as much, but we see each other on Zoom. He and a bunch of other guys. There are about, maybe up to 15 people, cartoonists that would get together every Friday and meet at a restaurant. And most of them were Disney artists or freelancers. And after COVID hit, we kept the tradition except online, and because everyone's gotten so old, don't want to drive anymore, we just kept the online Zoom calls. But we have people all over the world. We've got one regular from Mexico, the rest are from the US, but once in a while we get a guy from London, which is hard for you because of the time difference and all that. So, but yeah, it's nice. And we are working on a new Gru story right now. I think it's called The Prophecy, and we're already finished with the first issue.
So many places I could go from here. One of the other things that I find remarkable about Usagi is it is in some ways the perfect all ages book. Can you talk about the balancing act that you've had to do to make it a book that isn't just like, kid stuff, but also can be appreciated by younger readers without alienating older readers?
Yeah, I love it's read by all ages. Back in the day when people would write letters to the book, we used to get letters from 5-year-olds and up to, we had one guy, or I wouldn't say guy, but one child that took out a subscription using his parents' credit card. And then the editor, my editor contacted the parents and, did you know your son bought a subscription? And he no, we did not. But I thought that was kind of cute. But yeah, it is for all ages. I used to say that Usagi is written for a readership of one. And these are the stories that I would like to read. But then I got kind of flack from the family, said, that's so pretentious. So okay, now I say, I try to make it all ages readers.
I don't want to neglect necessarily the questions. Does anybody have a question?
There's a few. No, I'm sorry.
You kind of hit on it with your plotting. How do you keep track of this expansive universe that you've been building for 40 years? As you talk about now, you're trying to tie up loose ends, potentially bring back characters we haven't seen for some time. Kind of what's your system for doing that? Do you have like a giant spreadsheet or?
No, I keep everything in my head. But now that you mentioned actually, yeah, I keep everything in my head, and people ask every so often, like, there's one character who's a priest, appeared in one panel of a story that when I was with Mirage, and he just sat in the back and says, oh, now is not yet the time for us to meet. And then every so often I get a comment, like, what's with the character? When's he coming back? And I think, oh my gosh, I don't even remember him. But I must have had some kind of storyline with him in mind. But it's in there. It's the introduction of Inazuma, but he just says, we'll meet soon. But it's been like 30 years later.
Yeah, soon is relative.
Soon, yeah. Actually, that's another thing. Usagi's timeline is very different from us, such as there's a storyline, Red Scorpion, that was published about 10 years ago. It's 10 years in our time, but in Usagi's time, less than a year has passed, because you can tell the time by the seasons. Since Red Scorpion took place in the spring, since then it's been, he's gone through the summer monsoons into the fall, he went through the snow, and now he's coming back to spring again. So in that 10 years in our time, it's 1 year in Usagi. So their timeline, his timeline is very different. I'm sorry.
The Usagi swords, Willow Branch and Young Willow, where did you get the inspirations for their names?
Willow Branch and Young Willow actually is incorrect. What I had written, and this is before I did research, I had named his longer sword Yagi no Eda, which I thought was Willow Branch, but actually means Goat Branch. So I still haven't changed it. But no one has commented about that. But yeah, I guess it should be true. There are a few things that I did, stupid things that I regretted, but I've just been too lazy to change. Such as in the one of the first storylines, I introduced Lord Hikiji, and I showed Lord Hikiji in one panel, and he was a human. And later I thought, why did I do that? But it's like, and it's been reprinted a lot, so I could have gone back and put like goat ears on his head or something, but I've been too lazy to go do that, so Lord Hikiji is still a human. Actually, that came about because the notion ground from the storyline, and like I said, it talks about the decline of the anthropomorphic characters and the rise of the humans, and Lord Hikiji was going to be like the leader of the human cause. But anyway, I've never changed it. Yes.
So your command of the craft of storytelling is extraordinary, as many of us have commented on. Specifically, your balance of slow-paced, gentle arcs with the violence that is part and parcel to you as your hand. It truly reminds me of Tolkien. You just said that you write stories that you yourself want to read, which is exactly what the Inklings said to each other when they were, and The Hobbit is written for 5 to 8 year olds and published. So what I'm curious to know is, are you consciously aware of your extraordinary command of storytelling and balance?
Oh yeah, I'm terrific.
Perhaps some of these panels are not going to be as goopy as they should be in, say, as like the newest adaptation of the show, Shogun. Certainly it's a lot of
Yeah, she asked about my storytelling, and it's like the pacing, the plotting, and everything. For me, the writing is hard. I need quiet to write. I spend about a month mulling a story over before I actually commit anything to paper. And I'm thinking about what if this happens instead of that? What if this new character comes in? What if Usagi trips on a rock and falls? It's like, what if? And when I get the story about 80% how I want it, then I'll write it down in a book as an outline. And my outlines are basically bits of action, snatches of dialogue, and from then I'll determine how many pages each scene will take, and then I'll go from there. From the outline, I'll do thumbnails, and the thumbnails would basically tell me how many pages, compositions of the panels, how many panels each page would take, and then it's from there it goes to the final artwork. And I do everything the old-fashioned way, on paper. All my notes are written down. I still draw on Strathmore 500 series, kid finish, 2-ply Bristol, using pens, inks. I used to use a brush before, but like I said, I'm very lazy. I don't like to wash up brushes. I traveled with Jeff Smith on the Trilogy tour, and he uses a brush, and the way he cares for the brush, it's amazing. We were in his hotel room one night, and he was inking with his brush, and then he had to clean out his brush, and the way the care he takes, he has a little place, he dabs at brushes, and I said, oh my gosh, I used to just get a bar of soap and sit back, and then just wash out and suck the tip to a point, but the way he did it, it's like, I couldn't do that. And so actually tomorrow we're doing
Tools of the Trade.
Tools of the Trade panel, which I'm looking forward to. And I do have my pen. I brought my pen here. I found a pen about, when I started about 40 years ago. It was discontinued 10 years later, but when I heard it was going to be discontinued, I drove all over the LA area, buying everything I could find. And so I'm using that. I actually use 2 pens at a time. One is an old broken in pen, which has a nice thick and thin variation line strength. The other is a newer, stiffer pen, but it's the same brand. And that I use for the backgrounds and for background characters and things, and textures. But yeah, I'm lazy. Even when I do use a brush, I use the Pentel brushes because I can just cap them and I don't have to wash them. So I say it's lazy, but it's not laziness. It's being efficient.
It's the return on investment.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
In Usagi, you have a lot of homages and celebrations of various pieces of samurai fiction. I was wondering what your favorite samurai movie or story was.
Well, my favorite samurai movie, Satomi Hakkenden, the 3-parter that took, I think it was 1957. And I grew up in Hawaii, and there were a lot of Japanese theaters back then. And they would show Satomi Hakkenden every year at the Okapulu Theater, which was just down the street from where I grew up. And I'd watch it every year. And nowadays they have video or DVDs and whatever you can watch on Netflix or any type of platform. But that's my favorite. That, Seven Samurai, and Yojimbo are my 3 favorite samurai movies. Thank you.
Okay, back to the book.
Oh,
Okay.
yes, one question.
I love the supporting characters, and I would love to hear more stories about them. Do you ever do like mythology series or spin-offs?
Yeah, actually, I had proposed a series to Dark Horse. This is about 30 years ago, called Usagi Yojimbo Kagemusha, Shadow Warriors. And these were to be stories that were written and drawn by other creators using anything in the Usagi world, either his descendants or secondary characters, or just the places. And actually, it just so happens, the Space Usagi was supposed to be the first of the Kagemusha series, but there's a Kaito by Jared Cullum and Zach Rosenberg that's coming out in March from Dark Horse. It's a 5-issue limited series, and it takes place in 1984 Osaka, and it's really neat. I love that. So we want to do more things like that by other creators, and there are a few creators that I've already kind of talked to, and that I would love to see things by them.
I think it's interesting that, so, Usagi started at Fantagraphics. You went from Fanta to Mirage, Dark Horse to IDW, now you're back to Dark Horse with the Dogu imprint. It seems like with this type of venture, you're almost going from being like a one-man shop to almost like an editor and sort of an expanded, you're expanding, it's like another role that you're taking on. Can you talk a little bit about your Dark Horse stuff now with this imprint and what you spend on
Well,
that?
I can switch publishers because I own Usagi. I own everything about Usagi. I can control publishing, I control merchandising, licensing. We had a Netflix TV show about the descendant of Usagi, and that's came directly because I own the character. And if there's a Roblox game, I guess one of those video games or online, and we did that. All the Usagi toys that's coming out from NECA Toys, also from Playmates right now, and Thrill Joy is all because we own the character. There's even Usagi Cocoa and Usagi Tea and Usagi Coffee from Jade City, and so a lot of it is coming from, hey, this is neat. Yeah, I drink cocoa. I like Johnson Usagi cocoa. But also too, I can switch publishers. My contract with all my publishers has always been, whatever I send them, they publish. Because they have no editorial or story input at all. And the first time, the first time they see the story is when I send it in and it's complete. Like I also do work for Marvel. I've been doing more work for Marvel. And for Marvel, it's like I send in a thumbnails for my synopsis, and they approve that, and from there, I'll go for the finish, the final artwork. But with Usagi, whatever I turn in, they publish. And also, I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you. From the very beginning to the present, it's one long storyline. It's a story of one character, one person development from when he was young, all the way up to the present. So it's, even though it's very accessible, you can pick it up at just about any book, and you'll catch, you'll know what's going on. It is, if you read it from the very beginning, it is one long storyline. Characters appear, they die. Usagi's changed over the years. He was much more impulsive when he was younger. Now he's become more the sensei, the samurai, the teacher character. Now he's traveling with Yukichi, his cousin, and he's taking on the teacher role.
So the working with the publishers, you do the work, you send it in. Is there a place for an editor in that type of a relationship? Because I feel like you've spoken very highly of, Diana Schutz.
Diana Schutz.
Talk about that relationship for a moment.
Diana Schultz was the best editor I had. She was the editor at Dark Horse, and no one can compare with her. She really fought for the creator, and she was like, she was about my age, and she was like 98 pounds, dripping wet, but I was terrified of her. And so was everyone else, including her boss, Mike Richardson, who's the publisher of Dark Horse. And it's like, I enjoyed working with Diana. I'm so sorry that she retired. But Mike and I worked together on a book called 47 Ronin, which is based upon a historical incident. And I said, I'll only work with you, Mike, if Diana can be the editor. And she said, well, okay. But there were a lot of things that Diana had to go through, such as Mike says, I want to add 8 more pages to this book. And Dan's thing is, no, you can't do that. On the other hand, he is a publisher, so we got 8 more pages.
Yeah, if he wants it to happen, like it's his signature that makes it happen, so people do that. Talk about, in terms of was it just her being the liaison between you and the publisher? Who do you bounce ideas off of for something Usagi related, or are you just?
You mean story-wise?
Yeah, just in terms of the creative.
A lot of it. I never used to do this, but with Julie, my first wife Sharon passed away, but Julie, my present wife, I bounce ideas off of her, and more importantly, I let her read my pencil pages. I've never let anyone do that before. And she'll give me input from that level, because she's also an artist, and she has insights that I really respect. Like I said, I usually don't show anyone pencil pages. I would show Sergio ink pages once in a while. There was one story in particular called The Kite Story, and we had gotten together, and I said, oh, Sergio, I have a new story here. So he said, oh, let me read it. So he took it to a corner, and then he read it. He said, oh, it's a good story. He gave it back to me. And a few months later, people said, oh, I loved how you drew Gru in the story. And this is how San Diego Con came out. And so, yeah, you drew Gru really nicely. No. But later I found out Serge had drawn Gru in a crowd seat. And people caught up on that. And I never did.
Sneaky.
Yeah, no, he's fun. I love it. I love him.
So in terms of other partnerships and collaborations, can you talk about Tom Luth?
Oh, Tom passed away. He was a colors for Gru and also for Usagi, when Usagi was in color back in the Mirage days. But yeah, I knew him as a friend and before a professional relationship. But yeah, Tom was the nicest guy.
One of the things, so Usagi primarily, black and white book, obviously color covers. Mirage was full color, and then Dark Horse back in black and white. When you went to IDW, what went into the decision to making the ongoing Usagi book a color experience?
Because at that time when I was leaving Dark Horse, well, when I first came to Dark Horse, black and white books are common, but now, how many successful black and white books are there? Walking Dead was the last one, and it's not around anymore. So Usagi had to go to color to stay relevant. And I had been pushing Dark Horse to do a color series, but they said it just cannot be done. Not with Usagi, not with Usagi's fan base. And at that time, IDW had come to me and said, we'd like to publish Usagi. If you're ever dissatisfied with Dark Horse, we'd love to have you at IDW. And it just so happens that, oh, well, maybe I am dissatisfied with Dark Horse. And they said, okay, we'll do an Usagi series in color. And not only that, but we'll reprint all the old stories in color as well. And that really appealed to me. Both things appealed to me. So we went over to IDW, and we went back to Dark Horse because one, they gave us a really good offer, and the second is that I don't know if you keep up with the comic press. You may see that IDW had like a revolving door of editors, and they had a lot of staff turnover. And because of that, it was just not consistent. And a few of the editors that were there, we just did not get along with. So we went back to Dark Horse. And like I said, Mike Richardson and I had, we're still friends. We had a great relationship. And when we left Dark Horse the first time, he always said, if ever you want to come back, please, we'd be willing to have you back. The way I got into Dark Horse in the first place was interesting, because I was first with Thoughts and Images and the Fantagraphics, then Mirage, and I was going to stay with Mirage for a long time. Mirage they owned the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but they had suffered a really bad winter storm, and they didn't know about it until the spring thaw. And so all the computer equipment were destroyed, and at that time the comic book industry was not in as great a shape as it was before. So they said, we're going to stop publishing. However, we'll give you 7 months to find a new publisher. So I sent out, I think it was 8 letters to different publishers, and I got back 11 replies saying we'd like to publish a saga. Yeah, Diana Schultz contacted me and said, we'd like to do Usagi, And as soon as the last Mirage issue is out, we'll have the new Usagi, the Dark Horse Usagi, out next month, the following month. So I went with Dark Horse. And like I said, I had worked with Diana once before on a comic called Fish Police. I just did a short story for Fish Police that she edited, and I thought she was doing great. We still do have an editor. We have an editor at Dark Horse, and we also hired our own editor just because.
It's nice that somebody has like a traffic manager.
Yeah, tracking traffic, and he's our liaison with the publisher. Yeah.
When I think of the question, oh, okay. So talking about publishers, and I always thought it was interesting that you had worked with, not worked with Fanta. I mean, you had published with Fantagraphics, and then you've gone to Mirage and the Dark Horse, but you let Fanta have the reprint rights or control of the material that you did with them. I always thought that was really magnanimous and also like interesting. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, Fantagraphics, my first big publisher, still has the rights to black and white Usagi books that they published. And my deal with them, or at least the informal deal, is that as long as the stories are in print, they can maintain the rights. And Usagi has always been in print with Fantagraphics. Right now they're doing those big special editions, those thick omnibus books. And they're constantly in print, but they don't have access to the colored stories. But yeah, as long as it's in print with Fantagraphics, I'm more than willing to let them keep those rights.
Has it been, so it's funny, so we're talking about, characters that you had in like one panel of one issue early on, and the fact that when you were doing that material, reprints were, I mean, you could have like single issue reprints, but like you certainly didn't have these, on the volume. Have you noticed, your career has gone on long enough, your back catalog of this has been able to be reprinted and is staying accessible, up to the present day. Have you noticed anything particularly about that, like how that has maybe shaped audience reactions or
yeah, people read the omnibus editions nowadays more than the single issues or the single collections. And personally, I find those big omnibus editions bulky, they're heavy,
unwieldy?
Very unwieldy. There is the Polish editions of the omnibus books are much more compact, and they're like a little bigger than manga size, but you can fit them in your hand. You can read them on the bus. You can take them around. With the Dark Horse ones, oh, they're heavy. And I don't bring them to conventions because they're big and heavy, and they're a lot cheaper than.
Yeah. Artist editions and stuff are wonderful. They're great, but look at those things. Every time you have to move, you're just like, oh god.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of those artist editions, and the Spranker one's great, the Cooper ones are great, but they're big to heavy heavy.
The load-bearing structure that put those things on to them. If you had to, God forbid, give up either writing or drawing Usagi, who would you trust or want to work with as the other half of a Usagi?
Oh,
So like if you could only draw it, or if you could only write it, who would
writing. Gee, I really don't know. I never thought about that.
no reason you would.
I'm gonna. That's gonna haunt me.
Hypothetically, it's something that'll never happen.
I'm gonna be thinking about this for all the time. Maybe I'll go blind, and oh my gosh, it'll be your fault. I really don't. I never did that.
Well, I mean, okay. So let me amend that a little bit. So you're talking about the Kagemusha. Who were people that you would trust with Usagi?
There is a friend of mine from Mallorca in Spain, named Paul, and I love his work. I love his artwork. I love his writing, and he's one person I really want to do one of the Kagemusha stories. There's some others that, like one short stories that they expressed interest in doing. Some very prominent people. So, but yeah, as far as an ongoing story, I don't know. Like Jared and Zach, they said they already want to do a follow-up to 1984.
If you were getting started today, or in 2025, 2024, rather than 1984, what would you do different?
I'd probably work on the computer. No, really, it's like, I'm really old-fashioned now. Even they talk about AI coming in. People are concerned about AI. I'm still concerned about the computer coming in. I mean, I do everything by hand on paper. It's like,
It did remind me, you were talking about pens and stuff earlier. I've had the chance to talk with John Workman, and I can't remember the actual type of pen, but he was talking about some type of pen that was going out of, not out of print, but it was being discontinued. Him and Todd Klein scouring New York for like every art supply store, like trying to buy out as many of these things again. And he still has his stock, but it's getting like lower and lower. And he's somebody who really obviously mixes analog lettering and digital lettering. He's like one of the things with that is that it's less that he has to do, with these pens that he's, trying to like conserve resources and things. Does anybody have?
Hi, I have a question. Apologize if this is asked already because I got lost on the way here. But I was wondering with like the collaborations you've had with other comics, especially like, do you have a favorite Ninja Turtles collaboration since they've shows and comics and things like that?
well, my favorite Ninja Turtle is Leonardo. And if you ask me what weapon Raphael uses, I could not be able to tell you. But Leonardo, I like Leonardo. My favorite collaboration, Ninja Turtle crossover, was Werewolf. And I really like doing that. That was a story that I thought of about 15 years ago. But I never had the opportunity to do that until recently with IDW. So, yes.
After Usagi, who is your favorite character in the Usagi universe?
My favorite character after Usagi, gee, I don't know. I like Tomoe. I like Gen. Gen was inspired by Toshiro Mifune in Yojimbo. The way he manipulates people and the way he scratches himself. But yeah, I think Gen. He's a complementary to Usagi, where Usagi's noble and he always does the right thing. Gen is kind of like conniving. And also too, I like them in that they're like Laura and Hardy, where Usagi is the shorter, like Mutton Jet. I was going to say Mutton Jet, but no one knows who Mutton Jet are. I don't know if they know who Laura and Hardy are. Usagi's small and Gen's big and massive, so I like the contrast of the two.
You were saying earlier that, when you come up with an idea, you mull it around in your head for about a month. How do you even get to that stage before that? When you think, this is an idea I want to do. You've got this universe we've created, thought that for so long, with all these characters, and now some side universes to go down. Like, how do you even decide this is the story I want us to do next? Or this is I'm sure there are multiple things going at once. How do you even get to the point where you're like, okay, now I'm going to mull it over for a moment?
Well, right now I have landmark story points. I know where I'm heading towards. Right now, Usagi is currently in just north of Kyoto. And I know that the next storyline is going to take place with the Yagyu village. Then he'll go to Kyoto, they'll meet Inspector Shida. He'll go further south. I'll finish up the Lord Hikiji storyline. And then I know in Hiroshima, which is Geishu territory, Tomoe's wedding Those are big points for Usagi stories. It's just getting from one point to the next, getting the shorter stories, smaller stories to reach, to develop the entire, to keep the story going and make a logical connection to the next big point. And that's always the hardest. I know what I'm doing 10 years from now. I don't know what I'm doing next month. And part of it is I know I want to do a story about tea, growing tea. So that's why I'm going to Japan to visit tea farms. And it's exciting. I get to travel places like going to Japan. It's all tax deductible. So.
Unfortunately, it looks like we are about out of time. Everybody, stand Sakai.
I like This is a new Usagi toy. This is a Dogu variant. There's a Dark Horse toy that's blue that is sold through Dark Horse. That has like 1,000 units. This one, the Usagi, this Dogu variant is limited to 300, and each one is comes with a signed card. I brought one. You can order it through stansakai.com, but I brought this one. We'll sell it on Sunday after it's been displayed, and for no additional cost, I'll do a drawing, full drawing here. But whoever wants it on Sunday can buy it. But anyway,
in box with a stand Sakai drawing.
yeah, I'll figure someplace to try it. I was thinking maybe here or something, or come in the box. We'll probably figure out someplace to sell it, to sign it. And is that it? Okay, thank you for coming.